excited for this. Dang. No, I'm kidding.
No, it was a good deep breath. Okay, guys, what's up? I'm so glad that you are here at Stay True Podcast. I'm your host, Madison Pruitt Trout, and I am here with my very best friend, Jeanine Amapola.
Now award.
Oh, yeah. Jeanine Amapola Award. And she is the first official guest on this podcast besides my husband. And it only makes sense.
It does.
It only makes sense. Because how many times have I been on Happy and Healthy?
3 or 4 at this point.
3 or 4. And we have just seen each other through a lot. Mm-hmm. We have seen each other through singleness, dating, engagement,
heartbreak.
Marriage, heartbreak.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget that one in there.
Let's not forget that.
Some situationships.
Some situationships. And writing our books. Jeanine just released her new book, Becoming Happy and Healthy. And I got to write the foreword, which was so sweet and special. So I got to read it before everyone else. And I called her and told her, I was like, this is going to bless so many people. It's so good. And so y'all go check it out, Becoming Happy and Healthy. But she also has a podcast, Happy and Healthy Podcast.
Yep.
And it's blessed me and a lot of other people. So anyways, guys, go and check that out. But I'm excited for today's topic because this is probably, besides everything in the faith world, the like number one question I've been getting lately, which is all on friendships and loneliness. Like, how do I make friends? How do I have good and godly relationships? How do I know when it's time to walk away from some bad friends? How do I deal with a friend breakup? I mean, all the things. So we're going to go there, guys. We're going to go there. But I thought it'd be fun to start with a little game.
Okay. Wait. Before we start.
Oh.
Y'all, we have to hype up my girl over here. Y'all, you guys, this podcast, she has been texting me for like, I don't know how long.
I asked Jeanine so many questions.
Like just sitting here, being on this, watching you do this. Like I've already listened to the first 3 and they're so good. This is like a miracle prayer answered for you. And she's in her prayer closet. And now this is what her podcast is.
I know. It's really crazy.
This is just amazing. So make sure you guys support the podcast because she's put a lot of work into this. One day I came down. I was like, this is everything you need to do. And now here it is. So
I was so stressed. How many times did I tell you I'm going to quit?
A lot. And I said, no, you're not.
And that's why you need some good friends.
I just kept being like, no, you're
good
not.
Friends.
You're staying true to what you said you were going to do.
Oh, and that's a bar.
Okay. And your next
gonna
merch?
Stay true to what you said you were going to do.
That's your next episode.
You can just leave now. That was
bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
It's a great episode.
No, but she was like, no, this podcast is going to bless people. You need to stay, like, God put this on your heart. You got to stay faithful to it. And you didn't let me give up. And I'm so grateful. Hey. We didn't let each other give up on that.
Amen. We had some moments where we tried.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
We'll get into all the things. We're going to get into even our friendship. But first, a little game. So we're going to read the question and then we're going to say 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to point at whoever. It's a like, who's who, like, right?
Yeah. Like who do they think is more likely to do the blank or who is that role?
Who's messier?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, that wasn't one of the questions. That was
I'm like, wow, we'll get into that if you want.
So first one, who is more spontaneous?
What? Just kidding. It's me.
That was like me. I mean,
no,
thank you.
Definitely me.
It's definitely you. Who's better with directions?
Honestly, I think me.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like we both kind of suck.
Honestly, I know in my marriage, I'm better at directions, but
in marriage, 100%.
with you,
I'm better.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But your driving is really bad.
My driving is a little kook. I'm not gonna lie. That's why Caleb doesn't let me drive.
Your driving is terrifying. Every time I get in the car, I'm like, this might be my last time. This might be my last time. Who's the better cook? I really don't know. We didn't really cook for each other.
We didn't cook for each other. We cooked a lot in the house, but we always had separate meals.
Yeah. Huh.
But we have very different styles of cooking.
Yeah,
so
we
like
different things. And we did a lot of like meal prep services in Dallas and stuff.
Kind of hard to gauge.
I started getting into my cooking game
when
I got married.
Now you're probably a better cook.
I love cooking, honestly, now. That's something I was not expecting. Who's the pickier eater? Definitely me.
For sure.
Definitely me. Also, if you're not watching this video, I'm sorry because we are pointing. And so
you got to watch the YouTube, guys. Come on.
Come on, watch a YouTube video. Who has the messier room? I honestly would say you.
It was me. I know.
I would say you. Your room.
Our closets were literally so so minuscule that I didn't know where to put the stuff. So
and I did come over the other day. Literally, I came over the other day because we're filming a podcast. So she has a podcast coming out. We're doing a little what do you call it again?
Swap.
Mm-hmm. We're doing
podcast
a swap. And so hers is coming out tomorrow, and you'll want to tune in because that one's really, really good. But anyways, I came over and I was like, hey, I know we're recording a podcast, but I'm getting laser hair removal right after this. Can I shave in your show?
And I was like, oh no.
Her bathroom, y'all.
It was bad.
Listen.
That's why Caleb complains in our most recent podcast because there's products everywhere. So I will take the blame on that one.
Yeah, so I think you have the messier room. Okay, who stays in her room more? I'd probably say me.
Yeah, I'd probably say you as well.
Who has the longer bedtime routine?
Really? Well, no. Okay, actually, you took an hour-long bath every single night.
That was gonna be that was gonna be.
So I'd probably say you, and then you got your heating pad.
Say,
and then you read your Bible for like 3 hours, and then you prayed and fasted. I don't know.
That was mornings. No, at night for sure. Baths. My skincare routine is intense.
That's true.
But that started kind of towards the end of our rooming together.
Yes.
So
I'd
probably say
though.
me. Okay, who always got home the latest? Well, we did everything together.
Pretty much. But it would probably be me because I always wanted to stay out late. And you were like, can we go?
Yeah. Who's more dramatic? Definitely you.
Me?
Yeah, I would say you.
Probably me, yeah.
I might say I'm more animated, but I would say you're more dramatic.
I'm more dramatic, yeah. I would say that's true.
Who's most likely to fall asleep watching movies on the couch? You.
Probably me.
I feel like I can't.
I do that still to this day, so yeah.
Who's more likely to scream at a spider?
You.
Yeah,
I'm the one smacking it with a shoe.
That's for sure. I've had to get better though. Now managing my own home. When Jeanine was managing the home, I'm like, you got that right.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Who is the better gift giver?
Natty.
I would say me for sure.
She's incredible. She's taught me how to be a better gift giver.
I just like to be really thoughtful. Like I don't love to just like give gifts to give gifts. I try to be like very thoughtful. Even on this podcast. Like,
I know.
I got
she
a little
customizes
journal.
so much stuff. It's great.
It's great.
It's so great, guys. Get a friend like Maddie. She literally gave me this like customizable journal that had happy and healthy on it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it is really cute.
That was really nice.
Who watches more reality TV? Definitely you. And I got beef with it. Not really.
Yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards. But I definitely do. I watch Selling Sunset a lot.
And she watched me on The Bachelor.
I did watch you on The Bachelor. It's pretty crazy.
She talked about me on a podcast.
It's now deleted. But it was nothing bad about Maddie. I was actually gassing you up. I remember specifically saying in there,
liked me, guys.
Maddie is a girl after my own heart. I was like, I feel like Maddie and I'd be friends in the real world. And then we literally became best friends. It was just so crazy.
Yeah, we were speaking into existence. God knew we needed each other. But anyways, that's crazy. Well, you were a great roommate.
Thank you.
I love living with
too.
you. We say all the time, like, we prepared each other for marriage.
As best as we could.
As best as we could. There's some things you can't
But
prepare.
it's so funny because Grant is more of a vulnerable guy, and then I'm super vulnerable as well. And then Caleb is very similar to you. Y'all are both like challengers. Like you will definitely get very strong. And so I think having that balance really helped each other be like prepared for the person we were going to marry.
Oh, totally. I remember so many times being like, Janine's like, I would tell her later, I cried in my room the other day when I was having a bad day, and it was like a week ago, and she's like, why didn't you tell me?
I'm like, literally you cried in your room by yourself and you never told me?
And I'm like, because I'm scared of feelings. And she's like, why?
But it was like
but
the
you
coolest.
really helped me with that.
Well, it was like such a redemptive moment because one time you were like, you literally just came into like you knocked on my door and I'm like, yes. And you're like, I'm sad. And then she came on my bed and just started sobbing. And I was like, oh.
And it brought us closer.
It was so sweet.
And I should have been better about that. But that to me is like the scare. If you ask me the hardest thing for me to do, I'm like, I'll walk on burning coals. Is that what they're called? Burning coals. I will, whatever. Okay. Having to share my raw feelings of like, I feel sad, anxious, jealous, offended, scared. Like that's hard for me. But you really helped me with that. You, Jenny Allen, and my husband have really helped me with my emotions.
No, I mean, even since you've been married, I've seen you change so much. Like Grant has really.
Marriage will do that.
He's been great. Good job, Grant.
10 out of 10. No, he's great. Okay, I think we should get them into our friendship story. Like how we met. Because we just gave them a preview.
Yeah.
You saw me on TV. But then what was crazy was we had so many mutual friends.
So many friends. So it's actually funny. My ex went to Auburn. You went to Auburn. And then through that, I met Tracy and Sarah Partain. And who else was in the story of that? It was mainly those two.
I think it was just those two.
That were like, you need to meet Maddie. And I remember Tracy like specifically texting me being like, Maddie's about to get off the show. I really want her to meet a Christian person that's in this world that can help her. And I was like, sure, like I'm happy to help. And then Sarah Partain too was like, you need to meet my friend. I need my friend. I was like, okay, great. And then you were looking to move to LA.
Yeah.
And I was living in LA at the time. And I was actually looking for a roommate because I had lived alone already for about a year and a half. And I was like, I'm over this. And you were supposed to move to California.
I gave her my word and I was like, we're going to live together. And we met. Okay, wait, first of all, we met. And I remember we went to, I can like see the place.
The restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Back on the Beach in Santa Monica.
And we're like sitting on this like restaurant at the beach. And it was so sweet. But
perfect.
I remember being like, this is the kind of friend that I've prayed for my whole life. Like just like someone who was so fun and loved Jesus and could challenge me. And like we literally had a like 5-hour
oh my gosh, we talked forever.
little friend date. It was so
and we went
fun.
apartment hunting that day.
And then we went apartment hunting. But I think before that, when we were just like messaging each other before we had like officially met in person, she like sent me a like, let's see if we're like a roommate quiz.
I did. I was like, are we compatible?
She literally sent me, are we a compatible
I was like,
roommates?
what's your strengths? What are your weaknesses? But it was really helpful, honestly.
Like, who is this girl? She like wants to know me before we
But
even...
it was good because it actually showed
helpful.
us like who's like, do you like to stay up late? How much do you like to clean? Like it was actually really helpful.
It was helpful, but I just thought it was so funny. So I was like, I don't know if we're going to vibe. And then we met.
Did you think I was type A or something?
Yeah. Just from that.
That's so funny.
I was like, oh.
I just had roommate trauma, so I was like, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah, she has literal roommate trauma. But I'm coming in and I'm just like, yeah, I'm ready to live together. Like I'm like, I just trust you. And she's just like, well, I need you to take this quiz first.
So
like,
funny.
oh. But no, we have like lunch, dinner, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, we're going to be friends for life. And then we went and looked at apartments. I was like, we're going to live together. It's going to be awesome. Moving to LA. And then I proceeded to stay in LA, I think for like 2 weeks or something. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, this is not where you're supposed to live.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I going to break it to Jeanine?
She broke my heart, guys.
I was like, how am I going to tell her? I've already given her my word. I said, we've already decided we're going to live together. But I knew I still wanted to live with Jeanine. I just knew I wasn't supposed to live in LA.
Yeah, which makes sense because now looking back on our story, I remember talking about this in my book. It was a big part of my chapter about decisions where the Lord started changing my heart and you were literally praying and fasting.
I was praying for God to change her heart.
Yeah, because I was so dead set. I was like, I'm sorry, not leaving. I will be here minimum another year. And you were like, are you kidding me? But then you were the one that was like, I want to move to Dallas. And I was like, why? Like, that's where I'm from. And I was like, why do you want to move to Dallas? Like, you never even really been there. And that was
God
just the Lord.
Laid
like
Texas on my heart out of nowhere. And I told her, I was like, hey, I know I said we were going to live together. I know I said LA. I'm not feeling LA anymore. And I really feel like you're supposed to leave LA too. But I'm going to pray about it. And she was like, no. I'm pretty sure you told me like, I'm going to be here in at least 3 more years. And I was like, 3? I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
but
like, good luck getting married.
Like, listen, I'm going to go fast and pray. And my church was going through 21 days of prayer and fasting. And I was like, let's see if she still wants to do LA after that.
She literally like tattled on God on me and was like, God, make her change her mind. And he's like, oh, fine.
I felt though, I really did. I felt like God had something for us in Texas.
Yeah.
And I knew we were supposed to live together and I knew it was in LA. And so I was like, okay, God, like if we're supposed to live together, like you're going to have to change your heart and lay it on her heart because I would never want to like pressure someone to move or leave if your peace isn't what's leading them. And so I just remember praying. I was like, okay, God, like it's in your hands, but I really wanted it to happen. And I remember the day you FaceTimed me and called me.
Oh yeah.
And told me, and you were like, I think it's like I'm supposed to move to Dallas and we're supposed to live together. And then
we
she went all in.
Screamed. Yeah, we went all in. I bought a house. It was such a journey. But the Lord was literally all over it, you guys. All over it. I literally felt like the Lord told me, you're going to meet your husband in Texas. Your season of living alone is over. And I was like, okay, God, like I'm listening. And it really took time to change my heart. But when it did, it was like, we're going.
Yeah.
And it was the best. Oh my gosh. Moving
It
in
was-
together, moving to Dallas
Y'all,
was
we
insane.
should have had a reality
I was about
TV
to
show.
say that. We always joked like, Jeanine and Maddie take Dallas.
No, we were crazy. We needed to be. God
Yeah.
needed to send us our husbands in the best way.
Yeah.
Like we weren't like crazy or like ratchet crazy, but
No.
we just like we loved and lived life to the fullest. Like
Yep.
we were just spontaneous. We were taking trips left
I mean,
and
we were
right.
single. We were doing social media together. We
Yeah.
were roommates. I mean, all these crazy things were happening, and it was so fun, though.
It was so fun. We had the best time ever, and living together was truly like one of the best seasons of my life. I'm so glad
Me too.
that we had those. It was what, 2 years?
About 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for what, 3.5 years, 4 years?
Well, we met during the pandemic or after the pandemic. When did you get off the show?
No, yeah, it was like right when I got off the show. I got off the show March of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like right around that time
It was
period.
like around like July or something.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so crazy.
So we have known each other for almost 4 years, which is wild.
Wow, our
But
little
I feel like
anniversary is
I've
coming
known her
up.
my whole life.
It truly does feel that way. It's like such a kingdom friendship.
Yeah. Which I want to talk about because I think that one of the biggest questions that people ask is like, how do I build kingdom friendships? Like, how do I have godly friendships? And what does it look like to find that? Like, what does it look like to have a healthy, godly friendship? So I'd love to talk about that.
I love that topic. I feel like one of the things I always tell people, and it's so real though, is like you truly want to be the friend that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because it's so unfair to expect someone to be something that you're not. Like if you're like, oh, I want someone that's intentional and kind and honest and godly, and then you're not, it's like, oh, well, I should probably work on that.
Right.
And there's so many qualities like that Maddie has that I don't have. And that's why we refine each other. But it's like having that mindset of being willing to learn and to grow and to be somebody that can also bless a friendship. Because if you're only just taking, you don't want to be one of those friendships that
Right.
are a friend that's just like an energy sucker. Like you want to be someone that's contributing and blessing the person. And so I really do think like starting with yourself and being like, God, help me be the friend that I'm also looking for.
Yeah, that's so good because like who we are is like what we're going to attract. And so if we are a selfish, negative person, like we're naturally going to attract those kinds of people. So like become the person. I've heard it said like in dating, but I think it applies to friendship too.
Totally.
Like become the person that you're looking for is looking for. So like become that friend, like Jeanine was saying, become that godly friend, you know, encourage other people, compliment other people, celebrate other people, you know, challenge other people in the truth and in the gospel. And, you know, I think that is so important. If that's what you're wanting to receive, like make sure that's what you're giving, because it's so easy to be so self-focused. I think we live in a very self-focused world today, you know, where everyone's like, how can the relationship bless me? Like, what can you give me? And I think one of the best parts of our friendship is we're constantly looking to like outserve one another. Like we're constantly looking to encourage one another and love one another. And it's not like I'm just saying, you know, what's Jeanine going to give me today? Like, how's
Right.
Jeanine going to bless me today? It's like, no, I'm looking to like love on Jeanine and encourage Jeanine. And how can I every day, like we're very intentional with keeping up with asking each other intentional questions and how can I pray for you this week? And so just being that friend, I love that you said that because I think that's so important. Like be what you want to get and like be that person that you're looking for in another friend.
Well, I was just going to say that's really, really good because you really do want those friendships that you leave and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so blessed. I feel refreshed by that. I don't feel drained. And sometimes there are those friendships that are just like that. And it doesn't mean you cut them off, but like overall, the people that I can think of in my life that are like my best friends, like my ride or dies, are the people that are intentional and thoughtful. And they're like, hey, how did that hard conversation go? You know, let me remind you of the truth. Like there's been so many times where I'm like, I feel so insecure or I'm struggling with this or me and Caleb had a fight. And I've just called Maddie and Grant and y'all have just prayed over us and encouraged us and reminded us of truth. And so you don't want those people that are going to give you bad advice that are
good.
like, oh, just cut everybody off because I say this in my own podcast all the time, but like we are the generation of overprotecting our peace where we cut off everyone and everything that we deem as toxic or unfruitful or anything that offends us or anybody that we've had a minor inconvenience or conflict with. And it's like, no, like you've got to work through those. You'll never have a real deep intimate friendship or relationship with anybody if you can't have conflict and if you can't manage that and also make the person feel like fully known where they can trust you with like their deepest, darkest secret.
Yeah. And I want to get into conflict in a little bit because I think that is such a big part of relationships that we can so fear conflict, and we can have such a sensitive, offendable spirit that we, like, just like you said, cut friendships off or relationships off, or it's like, oh, this relationship isn't serving me anymore because you didn't tell me what I want to hear. And I'm like, no, if you're really a good friend and if you have a good friendship, they should sometimes tell you the things you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Like I was in a relationship one time and she looked at me and she was like, that is not the man that God has for you.
And she did the same thing
I
for
did
me.
the same thing for her. I was like, you need to end that relationship. Like he may be like, quote unquote, a good guy, but like he's not loving you the way you deserve to be loved. And we have done that for each other. And so good, godly friendships should call you out, should call you higher, should tell you the truth, whether it's what you want to hear or don't want to hear. And that's how you sharpen each other. Like we always talk about, you know, in Proverbs, it says like your relationship should be like iron sharpening iron. And that's what it, like, sharpening iron, like, that's not comfortable.
It's painful sometimes.
That's not always cute. Like that looks like calling each other out and making each other better.
There's been things that like you've literally said to me where you were like, you could do better, or Jeanine, you're not living the best that you could live. Like, I really think there's so much more for you. And I remember being like, well, that sucked. Like, I was like,
why'd she have to say it like that?
That hurt.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it and I was like, no, she's right. Like, a friend shouldn't want you to stay stagnant. A friend should not want you just to stay complacent. They should want you to grow and to better you and to make you look more like Jesus. And like, those are the friendships where I'm like, wow, like I truly grow from them. And this is one of the most like beneficial friendships I've ever had in my life, which I'm like, thank you, Lord, for that. But it isn't fun to hear the truth sometimes, but the truth is also what sets you free. Amen. Where you can now know, okay, there's a benchmark and I'm not meeting it. And I have someone in my life, objectively speaking, where they're like, I love you. Like, I have no stake in the game besides just loving you, to where I want to see you flourish. And this is not helping you flourish.
And we see like all throughout scripture, the importance of friendships, like how it can make you or break you, how the relationships around you are either building you up or pulling you back. And we see that all throughout scripture. You see it with like David and Jonathan. You see it with Moses and Aaron. And I think you say his name is like H-U-R.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
H-U-R.
I'm like, bro, I don't know how to say your name.
I'm like, why did you do that?
Why did your mother do that?
Think again.
No. But there's like so many, you see it with like Paul and Barnabas and all these different people all throughout scripture where you see the importance of friendship and what those friends do. There's even one in the Gospels that's talking about a man on a mat that's like so sick. And I think he's paralyzed and his friends literally take him before Jesus in order for him to be healed. And so I think that is the beauty of friendship, is like, are your friends taking you before Jesus to be healed? Are your friends putting you before Jesus to be all that you were called and created to be? Are your friends pushing you towards Jesus or further away from Jesus? Because your friends are going to either make you better or hold you back and keep you from all that God's called you to be. And so friendships do matter so much. I mean, I've heard it said so many times, like, you become like those that you surround yourself with. And so I would say, like, we've become, the longer we've been friends, like, we've even become more like each other in the best way of like, you rub off on the people you're around. And so if you want to be more confident, hang around confident people. If you want to be more compassionate, hang around compassionate people. Like, hang around the people that you're okay with becoming, because that's absolutely so important. But you touched on a little bit of like, I think you did, or maybe I just thought about it in my head, but I think you touched on just like even like the hardships in relationships and like conflict, which I'd love to get into, because y'all, our friendship is special and amazing. And we've had some harder moments. It hasn't always been perfect.
But we honestly, what is really nice is like, we're not a high conflict friendship.
No,
like,
we're not.
When you get those, like, we address it, but we've never had like a falling out or like a big old brawl, like where we were like, I'm not talking to you. Like, the one thing I can think of, the one like main situation, we had a birthday party at our house or something, and you were talking to JD because JD was telling you about Grant.
Because he was trying to set me up on a date with Grant.
Yes. This was before like Grant was ever really in the picture. And so they were talking for like hours outside. And I was cleaning up the birthday party, and I remember getting so mad. I'm like, I'm doing all the cleaning by myself. And I'm like trying to like loudly like slam things in the trash can. And then finally I like open the door and I'm like, are you going to come help me clean? And you were like, I'm in the middle of a conversation. And I like slam the door and I like walk back inside, and you're like, you cross your arms, I think. And we were just being so petty. Like, instead of me just being like, hey, Maddie, when you're done, can you just come help me clean? I literally like open the door and I'm like, are you gonna do that? And so I go in my room and you open my door and you're like, we need to talk. And I was like, fine. And we go in her room and we like hashed it out. And we were like, well, you hurt me here and you hurt me here. But then we like gently calmed down. We were like, okay, like I can see from your side. Well, I can see from your side. But like friendships have conflict. It's just inevitable. Like you can't avoid it. And if you're going to avoid it, you're not going to have a truly healthy friendship that also like lasts. Like they require conflict.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that healthy conflict and confrontation actually can make you closer and bring you closer to one another, because like she said, in relationships, there will be moments of tension, and we're human. And so we're going to fail each other. We're going to disappoint each other. We're going to let each other down. But whenever you're able to like confront each other in those moments, then it leaves room for like more understanding. Oh, like I understand where you're coming from. And then what does that bring? More connection. And so I think in that moment in particular, I was like so annoyed. I was
same.
I was like, girl, you're cleaning up while there's people still here. Like I'm still having a conversation. And so I just told her, I was like, hey, I was so happy to help clean up, but just after everyone's left. And so we were just able to like give each other like each other's side. And then I just told her, I was like, hey, how you handled that, in my opinion, was not the best way to handle it. And I'm also sorry, you know, that it seemed like I didn't care, or like that I wasn't willing to help, or that I was, you know, trying to play while you were working or anything like that. And so we both like apologized, owned our end of it. And it did. It like brought us closer together. Like I was like,
because that was our first like real conflict. Like we hadn't really had that many. But I mean, something you said in there that I think is important is owning your part. Because a lot of times you can just shift blame and be like, you did this and you didn't. And I mean, I talk about this in my book where it's like, you always want to say like I statements, like, hey, this is how I feel when you did this, not you did this and you're the worst and you're so selfish. Hey, this is how I feel. And then giving them the chance to respond and say, hey, I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I'm super sorry. Will you forgive me? And so those are just some like practical things I think too.
That's so good. Like own your part, even if you're only owning 2% of it. Like even if you feel like, oh, one person in this situation for sure, you know, was the majority of the problem, like own your 2% and say, hey, I'm really sorry for my role in this. Like, will you forgive me? And say those words and like name what you did, and not in a way of like, I'm sorry you felt that way.
Right.
But in the way of like, I'm sorry that I did this and that was hurtful to you. Will you forgive me? And, you know, give them the chance to. And I think like assuming the best too, like not, you know, accusing and blaming, but rather like asking questions, you know? And so like, what were you thinking in that moment? Like, how did I make you feel when I did that, you know? And just like asking questions gives them room to like, you know, speak their heart too.
Well, and too, like, I think a lot of people have it backwards where they go first to other people and they're like, Maddie made me so mad and she did this and I can't believe her. And you go make other people a part of the problem that were never meant to be in it, instead of just going directly to Maddie. Because like there was people at the party and I wasn't like, Maddie is being the worst thing ever. Like I was frustrated, and then we talked about it afterwards, and like no one needed to be in that fight besides us. Like it was us two in the fight, you know? And so I think a lot of people think like, let me go tell everyone first and then the person. And I'm like, that's not what Matthew 18 says. It says to go to the person first and address it with them.
Absolutely. And I always love to do the like grace, truth, grace sandwich.
It's a good idea.
Because I think it's helpful to start with grace of like, hey, this friendship means so much to me. Like, thank you so much for the friend that you are. And, you know, this moment I hope is only going to deepen our friendship and relationship. But because I care about you, like this thing that you did, like I want to bring it to your attention and ask questions. And then you proceed to like speak the truth of like, hey, you're better than that. And you call out their sin, like that anger or that gossiping or, you know, that thing that you said to someone about me, that was not okay. And that's hurtful. And then you bring it back around to like grace again of just like,
but I still love you.
I love you and I forgive you and I'm, you know, whatever. And so that just like is a good thing for you guys to kind of know of just like the grace, truth, grace sandwich. And that just, again, like makes it to where the person on the other end receiving it doesn't get defensive, because you're coming in with grace and with affirmation, but then you're speaking the truth in love. And sometimes like, even when you do that, like, I think it'd be helpful to get into like, what if the friend still does not take it well?
I mean, that happens.
That happens.
It is so
because
real.
you could handle it the best way possible, and you could be talking to a friend who just like does not want to hear it.
I mean, sometimes like what you have to do is, I feel like there's lipstick dangling off my lip.
Okay,
I think I got it. Thank you. I felt it.
I saw it.
Sometimes what you could do is like, hey, we're not seeking a resolution right now. So like, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home. I want to pray about this, think about this, like really try to reflect, like, where is my fault? And like, let's re-meet and try to rehash this back out. Because sometimes you might be like either caught off guard, or you're overly emotional, or you're mad at the person, or you're like, you just don't understand where I'm coming from. Maybe it's good to like take a pause, or even say, hey, let's take 15, let's come back. Because sometimes you just need that break to be like, okay, you know what? I did mess up.
Yeah. No, that's such good advice, because take it to God before you take it to them. Like take it to God before you take it to anybody else, and like go to God in prayer and be like, God, search my heart. Psalm 139, search my heart, remove any offensive way in me and lead me in the way of everlasting life. Like ask God first, like, hey, is there anything in me that is prideful, selfish? Because sometimes when we go to people thinking it's all their fault, a lot of times it's like our issues, and it's our own insecurities or fears or pride or whatever it may be. And so point the finger at yourself first and be like, is there anything, is this a me problem? Because sometimes it's not even helpful to take it to the person if it is a me problem. Like if I'm mad at you for hanging out with another friend and it's really just my own insecurity, like it's not helpful for me to come to you and be like, why were you hanging out with another friend? It's like, no, I should take that to God and be like, God, will you deal with my insecurities? Will you give me the security that I'm looking for? Jeanine can't give that to me. No relationship on earth can give that to me. So will you be that security that I'm seeking in another person? And so I think taking it to God first really does help reveal like what's going on in our own heart. So I think that's really good advice.
Well, that was also really good advice too. Just like, I do think a lot of people look for a friendship or even a relationship to solve all their insecurities, their loneliness, their fears. Like this person needs to solve my everything. And I've been in those friendships where like there's a codependent friend. And so when you disappoint them, you hang out with someone else, you move on, you get a boyfriend, they're like, oh, absolutely not. Like, I'm not letting you go. And then you start to feel that and you feel them like suffocating you. And they're like, no, you need to be my everything. And it is such good advice that like you have to get that security, your confidence in the Lord first, because your friend is never going to solve all your problems.
No.
Like Maddie can't be my end all be all. Neither can my own husband. It really is true. And so regardless, in any relationship, like God is truly has to be your foundation and your own security and your confidence.
That's so good. And like what's going to make even those friendships and relationships so much better. Like my relationship with Jeanine is so strong and secure and healthy because Jesus is the foundation of it. Like my friendships in my life are strong and healthy because my relationship with Jesus is the foundation of those friendships. And so we've made it a priority of like Matthew 7 talks about like building a house on a firm foundation. Like we've made it a priority of like, hey, our relationship is going to be built on Jesus Christ. And so we're going to love each other out of the love that we've received from Jesus. And so in that situation, like we aren't looking to each other for security, and we're not, you know, coming at each other with like jealousy or like, you know, crazy expectations or whatever it may be that worldly friendships can have sometimes. And so, and I think that's helpful actually to even get into a little bit, like how have we dealt with jealousy and like with comparison?
About to say that.
Because I mean, that is like, especially
It's
for
real.
girls, like that is such a real thing that even in like godly relationships, even having like good friendships, that still comes up.
Absolutely. I was actually going to talk about that because I do feel like that is a question people ask us a lot. It's like, were you jealous when Maddie got engaged before you? Or like, are you jealous that, you know, she has a podcast now, or you write a book and she has a book? And like, we are running in somewhat similar lanes, but like, just because this is our sphere, like there's your own sphere as well of like what you guys might be doing. And I mean, I'll be so transparent. There's definitely been times of jealousy or comparison, especially when we were newly living together and there was just so much going on and it was like so fast paced and we were in this new world and social media. And I remember being like, dang, like, why did she get that opportunity and I didn't, or this guy's into her and he's not into me. And it truly goes back to that same thing, what you were saying of just focusing back on you and the Lord and like, who did God make me to be? What are my gifts? What are my strengths? What are things that God gave me? And then also championing the person and what God gave them, like seeing the qualities and the strengths. Like Maddie is such a bold, confident person. And in the beginning, that was honestly very intimidating for me because like I wasn't really like that. I was in my own way. And I remember being like, whoa, like this is a lot because I wasn't used to it. But then the more that I saw it, I was like, wow, this is a gift. It's super powerful. I wanted to like champion that, encourage that. And so instead of me being like, God, why didn't you make me like that? I'm like, okay, God, these are things I can learn from Maddie. These are things I can watch and observe and be like, how can I do that? And champion her in that. But I mean, it's going to happen in like stages of life, but you've got to really do the hard work on yourself and nip it in the butt. Cause like, it's going to be in different seasons. Like you might get rid of it now, but it will find its way back in somewhere else. So it really just starts with you and the Lord. I know that's a short answer, but it's true.
No, that's so good. Because it is true. Like you can't help certain thoughts that enter your mind, but you can decide where they go from there. And so you can choose to dwell on them. You can choose to act on them. And so when you have like a comparison thought enter your mind, it's like, oh, well, am I going to let that, you know, what am I trying to say? Snowball into, you know, like a belief system or, you know, put that on a person or let it create a wedge or a division in the relationship? Well, or am I going to choose to like, what?
I was just going to say the word division.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Bible literally says where there's envy and strife, there's every work of the devil. And literally Satan loves to divide. So like, yeah, he sees two girls that love Jesus and he's like, I'm going to try to pit them against each other. They live in the same house. Let me make them enemies. And it's like, no, we're not that stupid. Like we see what you're doing here. So you've got to be active and aware of like, am I going to let the enemy win? Am I going to let the enemy have a foothold in my friendship and in my life and try to cause to see her as like, oh, this is my enemy. This is who I'm competing against. No, I want to champion her. She's not my competition. And so that is like such a mindset shift you've got to get is knowing like, we're not in a lack. We're not in a famine mentality. Like your abundance can also be my abundance. And like, I want to celebrate her when her book crushes it. I'm like, yes, like that's my friend. Go bestie. You know, like you want to really champion people the way that you'd want to be championed.
Yeah, that's so good. Her win is not my loss. Her success is not my failure. And that is something we are called to, especially as like Christian relationships and friendships. It is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, I'll be honest, when as like Christians, we're in competition with each other because it's like, isn't our mission all the same? Like, aren't we all after the same thing? And shouldn't my heart be so for you and God's hand on your life? And it's inevitable that you're going to have certain thoughts sometimes of like, dang, I wish, you know, I had that opportunity, or I wish that, you know, that person asked me to hang out, or whatever it may be. Those thoughts will enter your mind, but you have to take your thoughts captive and line it up to the truth. And so when you have those thoughts and those lies start, you know, swarming in your mind, it's like, okay, I know that you're thinking that thought, and here's the truth. Because Ephesians 6 talks about like our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Our struggle is against, you know, the rulers, the authorities, the principalities in this dark world. And so I know there is an enemy that is attacking my relationships and my friendships. Like she said, there is an enemy that wants to destroy what God wants to use in our relationship and friendship. Like not only what, you know, we do for each other, but also how we're able to encourage and impact other people around us. And that's for all of you. Like your relationships are so powerful. Your relationships and friendships are so important in how it can impact other people. And so the enemy wants to come in and wants to steal, kill, and destroy. And that is his purpose. But prayer is how you overcome that. And so for us, like we constantly prayed together, and I pray, like she said at the beginning, this is my prayer closet. And like, I pray blessing over Jeanine. I pray blessing over her marriage. I pray blessing over her book and over all that God has given her, as well as over our friendship. And so if you're feeling like tension or strife, or you start feeling like a comparison thought enter your mind, my encouragement would be replace it with the truth and pray for that person. Like start praying blessing over that person. Not only pray for your enemies, but pray for those that you love that you might even start feeling a little bit of competition towards, because that's one of the quickest ways to just, change that mindset of like, I am so for you and so behind you.
I was also just going to say on top of that, it's kind of like a muscle. The more that you can train yourself to be like, even if I am a little bit jealous, or even if I am feeling a little bit insecure, I'm still going to go. I'm going to get her balloons. I'm going to get her a cake. I'm going to freaking celebrate the heck out of her, because it really is like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it is, because everything within you, the enemy wants everything within you to be like, no, I'm angry. I'm salty. I'm not going to celebrate her. I want to try to crash her party and bring her down. And you've got to just literally fight the good fight in your brain and be like, no, I'm going to be a good friend. I'm going to show up. And it gets easier where you're just like, this is great. Like, I can do this. Like, this is amazing. I'm so proud of her. So it's so easy for you to look at someone and be like, I'm not going to help her because I don't want her podcast to be successful. I don't want her business. It's like, girl. Or maybe there's men listening to this too.
Boy.
People there's so much in this earth and this world that God has for you. So like, stop limiting God and only thinking that like, oh, only she's going to get that, or only her win is going to be just for her. Like, there's so much in this, and there's plenty of room for all of us to succeed and win. So
and what's meant for you will be yours. Like, you don't have to try and take someone else's. Like, what's meant for you will be yours. And you have to trust that, like she said, God is sovereign. God is in control. God is bigger than your brain and your feelings and your emotions. And so when you leave it up to God and you just be obedient and you be faithful, like, God will blow your mind on what he can do. But if you try and control it, you try and manipulate it, you try and like be jealous and make things happen and take things from other people, like, I promise you that is the quickest way to live a miserable life. But when you learn to truly celebrate other people and be for other people and not be jealous or take from them or even like gossip behind their back to try and pull them down in the eyes of other people, like that is when you can learn like, oh wow, I can be for each other and still be faithful with like the race God has called me to run. I'd love to like really quick touch on even just like toxic friendships and unhealthy friendships, and like when it is time to walk away, because the Bible is very clear about bad company corrupting good character. And so who you hang around really matters. And if you're hanging around people that are pulling you away from God and away from your God-given purpose and identity, that is so harmful to your becoming. And so I'd love to talk about that. Like, what was that like for you? What's your journey been like with, whether it be toxic friendships in the sense of like, maybe they're unequally yoked, like they don't love God like you do, or whether it be, maybe they do love God, but there's some really like unhealthy patterns or something.
So I have walked through this, and it was really, really painful. The longer that I was around her, the more I felt my energy being sucked from me, and a lot of just complaining. And it was exactly what we were talking about. Like, when I would get something super exciting, it never felt like a genuine, like, I am so happy for you. It was like, yay. And you could just tell like, she's really not happy for me. And this person started to kind of go a different path when they chose a completely different path than I did. I really was trying to grow my faith, and they walked away. And so this friendship, we struggled for a bit. We had conversations. We tried to resolve things. We actually tried to have a conversation about it. And so that really is my tip, is like, don't just like end the friendship. Don't just like ghost the friendship. Like, at least try to reconcile. And honestly, I tried. I was like, hey, let's get dinner. Like, let's figure this out. And it takes,
sorry, Grant's calling me. I'm
Granty.
assuming. Mom.
Oh,
my mom.
Hi, Tanya.
I'll call you back later, Mom.
I was just going to say though, like, to have healthy relationships, you need two healthy people that want to make it work. And it has to be two willing people. One person was willing and the other person wasn't. But then when I prayed about it and I looked back, now I'm like, okay, God, that was very clearly a relationship you didn't want for me, because almost every bad decision that I had made was in some sort of association with this person.
Wow.
So now I'm like, oh God, you were literally protecting me. So sometimes God will pluck someone out of your life and you're so mad, you don't understand why. And he's like, hey, I'm trying to protect you from this person that is corrupting your good character.
Amen.
And so sometimes it's painful. At least try to have the conversation. But if they're not pushing you towards Jesus and holiness and overall just making you a better person, like, that's a friendship you really strongly want to reconsider.
That's so good. That's so good. And I do think that there are times where like friendships are just there for a season, you know? And I think that we have to be okay with like life moving in seasons. And sometimes, you know, there's a reason for that season. Like they taught me something, you know, they were an addition to my life in that season. But maybe they're not meant to be in my life for a lifetime. Maybe they're not meant to be a lifetime friend. And I've had situations, I mean, you've seen even some friendships in my life that have been really hard. Like I've had situations of, you know, people that I felt like were just like not include me in things or, you know, send me things on social media that were hurtful and mean. And I'm like, man, I thought we were like for each other. I thought that we were running the same race and going after the same thing. But you deal with that in friendships. Like that's just the reality. And sometimes you're able, like she said, to have the conversation and, you know, speak your heart and share, you know, what you're feeling and go towards reconciliation, and that works. And sometimes it's like, hey, we're just supposed to go a different way. Like we're not meant to do life together, and that's okay. And I think you have to be okay with that. Like there are some times where friendships just need to end. And we see that like in Acts, there is Paul and Barnabas, these two godly, literally men of God who were on mission to like spread the gospel to the whole world. And they end up literally parting ways because over like a disagreement. And so you see even in scripture, like there being friend breakups essentially. And so it's a part of life. You can't run from it. It is hurtful and it is hard, but I do agree with like always seeking reconciliation and being okay with like, if there's rejection or it doesn't move towards full restoration, that's okay too. I've even had, you know, a friend where like we had a certain conversation after I had been hurt and it ended with a like, hey, I love you and I'm so for you. And I don't think we're going to be each other's best friends. Like, I don't think that trust is going to be fully restored to where we're just best friends again. But we're like on good terms. And so, you know, I think it just depends on the situation, but I think always try and move towards reconciliation. And it does take two people, like you said, on both sides.
Yeah. And not holding offense, because you could so easily go and talk bad about them and be like, she's the worst and she said this and da. And you hold so much bitterness, and the enemy even works in bitterness. I mean, truly he does. He wants you again to be divided. And so try your best afterwards to just be like, if someone asks you like, yeah, she's a great girl, we're just not friends anymore, and just keep it at that. But I know it's painful because friendships, like those are those things that you think are going to go forever and ever and ever. Like you're dating someone, it's like either we break up or we get married. It's one of the two.
So
but
weird.
with friendships, it's like, oh, you're not going to be my friend anymore? What the heck? And you get so sad. But it's just like anything else. Like not everything is meant to last forever. Some things end and it's like painful, but it's necessary. And so what you will also find is as you get older, your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's kind of hard when you come to that where you're like, wait, whoa, like I'm losing friends, or maybe we've grown apart. But I almost feel like it's kind of healthy because then you get your like ride or dies. You're like, these are the people I'm doing life with forever.
Totally.
And so it's okay if it gets a little bit smaller as you get older as well.
Yeah. We want to live next to each other. We actually talked about
That's our
having
goal.
conjoined houses at one point.
We raise our little kids together.
Raise our kids together. And
hey, a girl can dream, right?
No, we are dreaming. That is my, y'all. I mean, we talked about praying and fasting. I'm like, I will be praying and fasting that we live next to each other and raise our kids together.
Very plausible.
But yeah. So about toxic friendships though, I do think that you spoke to this earlier about just like reevaluate the people that like check your surroundings. Like who are you doing life with, and ask yourself, like, are they making me more like Jesus? Are they making me a better person? Because you alluded to, you were making some of your worst decisions because of the person or the people that you were hanging out with. And I guarantee you, if you right now take a second to check your surroundings and think about your friendships, they are either making you better or making you badder. That's not a word.
Badder.
But
I love it.
I'm going to use it for that because better, it just sounds good. But they are. I mean, they're either pushing you towards holiness or they're pushing you towards sin. There's no in between. They're pushing you towards God or they're pushing you further away from God. And so evaluate your relationships and see, like, is it worth it? Because I would say it is better to be lonely for a season than to be around people that are taking you away for the reason that you're very like here. I mean, the reason that you're on this planet. it.
Yeah.
You know, it's better to be lonely for a season than to be around people that are pushing you further and further away from God and your purpose in this life. And so, yeah, loneliness is not somewhere you want to stay, but sometimes it is necessary for a season. Like I had that freshman year of college where like I knew that the friends that I was hanging around were not good friends for me. And so I distanced myself from those people, and I spent about 6 months like literally alone with God. But I'm thankful because that was the season where my faith became so real. But then I knew I wasn't meant to stay there. You know, like God's design was for us to be in community. Like we are going against God's design when we choose to do life alone. You may be alone in a season, but you're not meant to stay there because you were made for community. And so I knew I had to step out of my comfort zone. I had to go join a small group and, you know, get plugged in somewhere. So I think it'd be helpful for us to touch on loneliness and how to make friends, because I know that's like a lot of people's questions is like,
oh my gosh,
but I want a friendship like y'all's,
but
I don't know how.
Probably my number one question I get asked, because I get it, y'all. Like truly since the pandemic, I feel like this has truly been an epidemic for people, is loneliness and trying to figure out how do we connect. And social media has been beneficial in that. Like we became friends because of that, but also it's really distanced us and caused more people to become isolated. And God's intention was never for us to be isolated. It was for us to experience godly solitude, which is what Maddie's talking about. I've had moments of godly solitude where that is where you know God, you get his presence, you get filled up, and then it prepares you to go back out to be a good friend, to be a good spouse, to take on the world and handle all the things. But isolation is not a place that God wants you to stay, because nothing good happens in isolation.
Amen.
Truly, you make bad decisions, you compromise, you're living in a secret life or whatever. It's like the enemy loves and thrives in that. And so I've been in seasons too where I literally had to partner with God. And this is my first tip for you guys, is like be willing to partner with God. I told God, if you don't bring me a community group, I'm willing to make one myself, because I am so desperate for people that make me look more like you. And thank God he kindly brought me a small group, like I kid you not, like a month after that, and it changed my life. So be willing to be the first person that steps out, say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the one that starts a small group. I'm going to be the one that buys everyone a Bible study book. We're going to do it together. I'm going to be the one that goes first and leads and makes a difference, because I feel like a lot of times we're waiting for other people. Text me first. No one's texting me. No one's reaching out. No one's inviting me. And we can live in a pity mindset where it's like, oh my gosh, woe is me. And it's like, well, what if someone needs you to do that first? Like, what if someone needs you to be the friend that they're looking for, where you text them and say, want to go on a walk? Do you want to get coffee? I can guarantee you, people at your job, at your gym, at your church, at wherever you are regularly, there's so many women or men around you that could be your next best friend. If you just put yourself out there and consistently showed up and asked them questions. What's your mom like? What's your upbringing? Where are you
What's
from?
your mom like?
What's your social security number? No, I'm kidding. But
don't ask that.
You know what I'm saying.
No, that's so good. I have so many thoughts. And I love that you touched on social media, because I do think that we've never, in the course of the history of being alive as a world, we have never been more connected socially, but less alone and disconnected personally. Like we are so connected through social media, through media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, I don't even know, Twitter, all the things, podcasting. I mean, we're so connected online that we don't know how to connect in real life. And we settle for this like counterfeit, you know, not real connection, rather than developing and putting in the hard work for a real personal connection in real life. And real life connection takes work. It takes getting uncomfortable. It takes putting yourself out there, because yes, that's so true. Like we expect like to get an Amazon package on our front door of our next best friend, and it just don't work like that. Like you got to put yourself out there. I had to go to a small group where I did not know a single person, and it was so awkward. I literally showed up, got in my car and left because I felt so awkward. And then God was like, no, turn around. And so I turned back around and I went inside, and it was so awkward for the first 15 minutes. And then I met one of my best friends who was in my wedding. And I'm so thankful that I did that. That was like a moment in my life that changed the trajectory of my life. And it took me getting uncomfortable. It took me taking the first step, like she was talking about, and being that person, and not just sitting in this. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely. And it's like, well, what are you doing about it?
Right.
Well, not like nothing, you know, I'm introverted. I'm socially awkward. I have anxiety. And so I don't really, and it's like, okay, but and it might be harder for you, but you still have to put yourself out there, or else you're just going to stay in that same place, being stuck in this place of loneliness. It takes putting yourself out there, taking that first step. It's not always comfortable. Actually, most of the time it's not comfortable. And even being like the first person to like ask intentional questions, or be vulnerable, or be like, hey, here's my story. Like, here's, here's what God's brought me through. And just being willing to go there first. I think that's so important. And just for you to have understanding that like we live in a very social media, self-focused, isolation. It has become an epidemic. And in order to break free from that, it's going to take, finding a local church, getting plugged in, putting yourself in environments to set yourself up for success. Like, where are you looking for those friendships? Like, are you going to bars trying to find your bridesmaids? Like, are you going to, clubs trying to find your forever friends? Like, you're probably not going to find the people that you're looking to do life with that are going to make you a better person in those places. Like, I would encourage you to like get plugged into a local church, join a life group, small group, community group, whatever it's called, find somewhere in the city to serve, and like, go join a nonprofit, or like some place where you can give back. And those are going to be usually the places that you're going to find like-minded people.
That's so good. And this takes time.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't instantly become best friends. Like, we still had to build, like, yes, we hit it off immediately, but we still had to build the friendship, get to know each other, have that equity where we could speak into each other, have conflict, have hard conversations, good conversations, vulnerability. So nothing good comes easy and that fast. And so knowing that if you're feeling discouraged, you're like, I moved to a new city, or I'm at a new school and I didn't meet my best friend yet. It's like, it might take a year, and I'm sorry, but it might. But again, partnering with God, like what you said, putting yourself in those environments and then praying like, God, will you please bless me with a best friend? Bless me with even just one person. I'd rather you have one solid person than 20 flaky people. So even if it's one friend, just God, will you bless me with someone to do this life with at my university, in my new job, or whatever. And again, be the friend that you're looking for. I think just putting yourself out there is really going to make a difference, and know that this takes time. And so we are rooting for you guys.
Yeah,
it's
truly
possible.
It is possible.
It is difficult. We know friendships can be difficult, but not everyone's meant to be your friend. Not everyone should have access to being your friend if they're not the right person. So just be wise and ask God for discernment on like, is this a good person or is this not?
Yeah. Amen. It takes effort. It takes you putting yourself out there, be, like she said, be the friend that you're looking for, put yourself in the right environments, and be the one who's willing to like be honest and share your story and ask good questions. And know, like she said, it takes time, but in order for you to get free from what you feel stuck in, like it takes you doing something new. It takes like being aware that you don't want to stay stuck with where you're at and trying something different. Like that's the only way you're going to be able to break free. And so put yourself in those environments, and just know it takes time. There might be some hard moments. It might not even be a lifetime friend. But every once in a while you'll come across those that you're like, I want you to stick around.
You're not leaving me.
You're not leaving
You're
me.
coming
You're
home with
stuck
me.
We're ridiculous. We talk in baby voices sometimes.
Yeah, you guys don't want to hear it.
You don't. We're ridiculous. Okay, this has been so fun, and I really do hope that this is helpful for you guys. We do pray that God sends you godly friendships and people for you to do life with, that you can confess to, that can hold you accountable, that you can pray with, that you can laugh with, that makes you better, that makes you look more like Jesus, because those are all of the fruits of a healthy, godly friendship and relationship. Like those are some of the things that I've seen, in our friendship, is like, you make me look more like Jesus. You help me become the person that God has called me to be. And also you're you're a safe place that I can confess to and be like, hey, I really messed up. Like, you know, I fell short, or I'm having this thought. Like, even when I was getting ready to start this podcast, I was having all of these insecure thoughts or comparison thoughts. And I would just like text or call Jeanine and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm confessing this to you. And she would ask questions and she would pray for me and she would remind me of scripture. And so be willing to share the hard things, be willing to confess, but also hold each other accountable. Okay. I think this was a good podcast. I hope that this was encouraging to a lot of people. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, it's just good to know that you think I'm messier than you. That's what I took away from this podcast. I'm like, we're going to fight after this.
We're fighting after this, guys.
No,
We'll
I
keep
actually
you posted.
probably was.
Healthy conflict. What?
I was messier than you, I think.
No, 100%.
It's so funny. I
would say you still are.
Probably, again, remember, my closet is a little smaller than yours. But yes.
You're really clean with shared spaces.
Oh, that for sure. I wipe that counter every day.
It's your private spaces that are really messy.
Which makes sense because I'm like, no one's going to see this. Shut the door. Don't look then if it bothers you.
No, I'm just kidding. Like her shared space, she does not if Caleb leaves a dish on the sink, she's like mad. But now you go in her room and you're like, girl.
Like, different story. I've gone better, but it's always the clothes. I don't know where to put it all.
Guys, okay, we love you so much. I am sweating also. We shared we put our dirty laundry out there in hopes that it was helpful for you guys. But thanks for coming on.
Do you have like a little catchphrase when people end? Like,
I do.
Like, stay true and don't do something I would do. No, I'm just kidding.
No, what?
Stay true and do everything I say to do. What's your catchphrase?
No, I say, as always, stay true, stay you. I love you.
I love you, boo boo.
I cannot. Okay, guys,
I'm trying to give her catchphrase or her new merch line.
I think they should be called True Crew.
True Crew.
True Crew. It just came to me, but I don't know. Maybe you guys hate that.
No,
Let me know.
Cute. I'd wear it.
Let me know. Like, True Crew. Can we vibe with that? I don't know.
I'm a True Crew.
I think you're officially True Crew now.
Thank you.
What's
my hazing process?
You've been initiated.
Oh, let's go.
Okay, we're wrapping up. I love you guys so much.
Bye.
As always, stay you, stay true. I love you.
Bye.